Welcome back to Hen House Files, where we scratch beneath the surface of the world's darkest mysteries. And trust me, today's story, you're going to want to keep the lights on and maybe check your walls for uninvited roosters. Because this one clause. My name is Elena Reyes, and if I'm being honest, I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm losing my mind. But I promise you, I was completely normal once. I had a job, friends, plans, a whole life that made sense. Everything changed when my mother died. She passed last spring, sudden and quiet. No long illness, no warning. One afternoon, I got a call from the hospital saying her heart had simply stopped, like a lamp being switched off. 3 days later, I learned she had left me something. Not money, not jewelry, not even anything sentimental. She left me a house I'd never seen, a house she had never mentioned, not once, my entire life. Her lawyer slid the key across the desk like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She called it the family home, he said you were the only one who should ever open the door. I laughed. I thought it was grief making everything feel surreal, but something in his voice, the way he didn't look up when he spoke, it should have told me everything. The house was 3 hours outside of town, rural, surrounded by dense, quiet woods, the kind of place where cell service dies and the road narrows until it's barely more than dirt. I got there right before sunset, and I swear to you, the house was already waiting. It sat at the tree line, tall and narrow like it was leaning forward, like it was listening. The front windows were dark, even though the sun was still up, and every instinct in my body whispered, "Don't go in." But I had my mother's key, and I had questions. So I did. Inside, the house smelled like pine and dust and something old. Not bad exactly, but stale, the way air gets when it hasn't been breathed in years. But the strangest thing? Everything was clean. No cobwebs, no dust on the furniture, no signs of animals or insects, like someone had just finished tidying. I checked every room, upstairs and down. No sign of anyone living there. But when I went to bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Around midnight, I woke to a sound, scratching, soft, slow, coming from inside the walls. Not like a mouse, not skittering, deliberate. Scratch, 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 then pause, like something was waiting to hear if I had noticed. I whispered into the darkness, "Hello?" And the scratching stopped. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day, I called a neighbor, or the closest thing to a neighbor I could find, a woman who lived a mile down the road. Name was Mrs. Avery. When I told her who I was, she went silent. Then she said, "You're Maria's girl." My mother's name, not a question. A statement heavy enough to drop the air out of the room. I asked if she knew anything about the house. She hesitated. Then, some houses don't forget, especially when they've been fed. And she hung up. That night, the scratching didn't come from behind the wall. It came from inside my bedroom. I heard breathing, close enough to fog the air. And then, a voice, a whisper, right next to my ear. "You came back." I froze. The air was cold. My skin prickled. Something pressed the mattress beside me, like fingers sinking in. I didn't turn to look. I couldn't. The voice exhaled again, like it was smelling me. "You're hers." I don't remember falling asleep. I only remember waking up to find the bedroom door closed, even though I never shut it, and someone had placed a chair beside the bed, facing me, as if something had been watching. The next morning, I searched the house again, but this time, I wasn't just looking. I was listening. Every floorboard, every wall, every shadow felt alive, like the house was holding its breath, like it was watching to see what I do. In the upstairs hallway, behind a loose section of paneling, I found a drawer carved directly into the wall. No handle, no hinges, just a wooden square that slid free if you knew exactly where to push. Inside was a journal. The cover was soft leather, dark with age. The pages were uneven, the writing cramped, some written in my mother's neat handwriting, some written in hands I didn't recognize, stretching back decades. And every entry began with the same title, Record of the Kept. The first entry was dated 1891. I didn't understand everything at first. Some of the pages were faded, others stained, like someone had pressed their fingers into the ink while it was still wet. But there were patterns, repeated phrases, repeated warnings. The house chooses. The women remember. Never answer it in the dark. We feed it so it does not take. I flipped forward. My mother's handwriting began in the 1980s. Clean, steady, careful. I hear it now. It whispers when I am alone. It is patient. It knows I was born for it. My heart hammered. I turned the page. I won't let it take her. She will never know this place. She will be free. She meant me. She ran from this house. She tried to break the chain. She failed because somehow I was back. That night, I slept in the living room. I kept all the lights on. I sat upright on the couch, journal in my lap, trying to understand. Around 2 a.m., the lights flickered, then went out. The house dropped into darkness so thick it felt like it was pressing against my skin. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And in the silence, I heard it again. Not scratching, not whispering. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, not human. They came from upstairs, from the hall where I found the journal. Down the staircase. One step at a time. The air grew cold. Not cold like winter. Cold like the breath of something that had never been alive. I could see nothing, not even my own hands, but I felt it move past me. The couch cushions shifted. The floorboards creaked under weight. Then, a voice, not a whisper this time. Something deep, something old. You should have stayed away. My throat locked. I couldn't scream. The voice moved behind me. You are the last. You are mine. Light burst back on. The room was empty, but the chair from my bedroom, the one that had been pulled to my bedside, it was now sitting right behind the couch, angled toward me, waiting. In the morning, I went back to see Mrs. Avery. This time, she didn't pretend not to know. She opened the door before I knocked, like she had been standing there already. Her eyes looked tired, heavy, resigned. It's awake now, isn't it? I nodded. Her shoulders sank. Your family has had a pact with it for generations. It protects the bloodline, but at a cost. I asked what cost. She looked at me like she was trying to choose whether to lie. Then, it takes one of you, always one, a daughter, a keeper. My chest tightened. My mother didn't die of heart failure, did she? Mrs. Avery didn't answer. She didn't need to. She just said, whatever you do not speak to it first. If you do, that means you've accepted it. I left her porch shaking because I remembered the whisper my first night in the house. You came back, and I had answered. Hello? I had already spoken to it. I had already accepted. The next days bled together. I would lose time. I'd look up and realize I was standing in a hallway I didn't remember walking into. I found myself scribbling in the journal, words I didn't remember writing. When I tried to sleep, my dreams were not dreams. I saw a woman standing in the corner of my room. Not my mother. Not anyone I recognized. Her hair was long and hanging over her face. Her body was wrong, joints bent at angles that made my bones ache just looking at her. She would whisper, "You belong to us now." And when I woke, I would be standing, not lying down, standing, facing the wall, like I had been waiting for instructions. The dreams got worse. Not nightmares, those I could have handled. These were memories, not mine. I started seeing the house as it used to be, full of light, full of laughter. Women cooking in the kitchen, children running through the halls, faces I didn't recognize, but who somehow felt familiar, family I had never met. But in every dream, there was always one thing the women never looked at, the door at the end of the upstairs hallway. It was always closed, always locked, always breathing. One night, I saw my mother standing in front of that door, her back to me, her hair loose, the way she used to wear it when she brushed it before bed, and she was crying. I walked toward her, slow, cautious, because my dreams had rules, and I was afraid I'd break something if I moved too quickly. Mom? I whispered. She froze, then turned her head just enough for me to see the corner of her eye, and the voice that answered was not hers. You should not have come back. I woke choking on air, nails digging into my palms, heartbeat pounding in my ears so loudly it drowned out everything else. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then I realized I was standing in that same hallway, the real one, facing the real door, hand on the knob, twisting it, trying to open it. I yanked my hand away like it had burned me. The house was silent, but I wasn't alone. I stopped eating, not intentionally. Food just didn't appeal anymore. Everything tasted flat, gray, empty. But at night, my mouth would fill with the taste of iron, blood. Sometimes I would wake to find my teeth aching, my jaw sore, like I had been chewing something tough, or someone. My mother had written about this too. When it becomes hungry, it will make you hungry. Do not feed it with your own hands. If you do, it becomes you. I didn't understand what she meant. Not then, but I would. Soon. It happened on the 12th night. The scratching returned, not inside the walls this time, from behind the upstairs door. Not frantic, not animal, purposeful, expectant. I stood at the top of the stairs, staring at the door, unable to move. The scratching stopped. Silence. Then click. The sound of a lock releasing. The door eased open, very slowly, just a sliver, just enough for the darkness inside to look back at me. The smell that came out was sweet and rotting, like flowers left too long in water. And then a hand slid through the gap. Small, thin, pale, child-sized. It touched the floorboards with its fingertips, like it was getting its balance. Then it began to crawl out of the room. Every joint in its arm bent the wrong way. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just whispered, "Mom, please help me." The crawling thing stopped. Slowly, its head lifted. And from inside that darkness, I heard her voice again. My mother's voice, but broken, wet, pulled through something that didn't understand how to speak. I tried. The thing lurched toward me, and I ran. I drove to the cemetery, middle of the night, barefoot, keys still in the house door. My mother's grave was simple, plain granite, just her name and her dates. No epitaph, no warmth. I dropped to my knees in front of it. My voice cracked as soon as I spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" The wind moved through the trees, cold, empty, and then it stopped, completely, dead air, like the world was holding its breath. And I heard her, not behind me, not in my head, under the ground. I did. My heart stopped. The soil over the grave shifted, just the slightest ripple. And then I understood. She didn't die naturally. She gave herself to keep the thing asleep. She fed it herself so it wouldn't take me. And then she ran out of time. I collapsed forward, sobbing. The ground beneath me exhaled. I don't remember driving back. I just remember standing in the doorway again. The house was quiet, too quiet, like it was waiting politely for me to come home, like it always knew I would, because I had no mother left to protect me, because I was the last, because the family line had narrowed to one throat, mine. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me, not slammed, just closed, soft, patient, final. The house changed when I returned. The air was warmer, breathing, like lungs expanding after a long sleep. The walls seemed closer, doorways narrower, the ceiling lower than before. Not in a dramatic, supernatural way, just wrong enough that my body noticed even if my mind didn't want to. The floorboards didn't creak anymore, because now the house knew my weight. It didn't need to learn me. It already had. I went to the kitchen. Though I wasn't hungry, my hands shook. My breath trembled. I didn't know what I meant to do, fight or flee or collapse. But as soon as I touched the counter, I saw something sitting neatly on the kitchen table. My mother's teacup, still stained, still cracked at the handle, right where she used to leave it every morning. But it had not been there before. The house was showing me her, or what was left of her. My throat burned as I whispered, "Mom, I don't know what to do." The house answered, not with footsteps, not with whispers, with a memory. The smell of my mother's perfume, rosewater, and pine filled the air, and I heard her voice, soft, tender, the way she used to sound when I was little. "Don't let it make you love it." The words hit deep, because the demon didn't want fear. It wanted familiarity, dependence, comfort. It wanted to feel like home. I didn't notice the first time the entity moved my hands. I was brushing my hair. The mirror fogged, though the room was cold, and I watched my reflection lift the brush again. But my wrist had gone slack. Someone else guided the motion. Long, slow strokes, like a mother brushing a child's hair. I stood there, frozen, my reflection not matching my breath. My hand moved again. This time, I whispered, "Stop," and it did, immediately, not out of obedience, out of patience. That made it worse, because patience meant control. It meant confidence. It meant it knew I would let it continue eventually. The journal had one more important line, one I hadn't understood fully until then. It cannot take what is not given. It must be invited. Possession wasn't some violent takeover. It was a relationship, a seduction. It waited for grief, for quiet, for loneliness. And I was alone now, alone in a house that remembered my family better than I did. So I spoke out loud, into the air, into the dark corner of the room where the shadows felt too thick. "You want to keep me." The air shifted, warm, close. The answer was not words. It was a sense, a feeling. "Yes, why me?" I whispered. This time, there were words, spoken in my mother's voice. "Because you're the only one who stayed." I broke, not dramatically, not with screaming or collapse, just quietly, a soft exhale, a small surrender, like a child letting go of a memory. And that was what it wanted, the breaking that feels like relief. I lit candles, not as protection, but because the house felt dark without them. I sat in my mother's chair, the chair that had followed me from room to room, the chair that had watched me sleep. The house was quiet. The entity was close, just beneath my skin, breathing with me, waiting. I said, "I won't let you take me completely." And I felt approval, permission, acceptance. The entity did not want my destruction. It wanted presence. It wanted remains of me to still exist inside the body it shared. That was the balance my mother never had the chance to find. It had taken her fully because she had resisted until she couldn't. I wasn't resisting. I was negotiating. So I made a vow, not to the demon, but to my mother. I will live, even if something lives with me. And the house exhaled. The candles wavered. The door at the end of the hall closed quietly. Not trapped, just closed. The house had accepted the bargain. And so had I. I do not stay in the house now, but I do not leave it behind. Some days I work. Some days I laugh. Some days I forget for hours at a time. But when I am alone, sometimes my hand brushes my hair without me meaning to. Sometimes I wake up facing the wall. Sometimes I hear the soft, slow scratching inside the walls, not frantic, not hungry, just present. And sometimes I feel her, my mother, not gone, just quieter than the thing beside her. I live. The entity lives. We share, not peacefully, but not violently. Something between love and captivity. Something between inheritance and curse. Something that breathes when I breathe. And I know one day I will have a daughter, and I will have to decide, do I tell her the truth, or do I try to save her? My mother made her choice, and now I will have to make mine. And that, feathered friends, concludes today's case. If your walls start scratching tonight, just remember, maybe it's not the rooster that comes home to roost. Maybe it's the whole bloodline. If you like this story, don't forget to peck that like button, nestle into the subscribe roost, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next descent into the coop of the uncanny. This is Hen House Files, where the darkness doesn't just go bump in the night. Sometimes it whispers your name.